weather. He says, get your own damn window.
That was a little time.
And he said, are you that new weather guy that's just come here to take Clint Yule's place? And I said, that's right. He said, well, let me give you some advice. Don't smile when you tell the weather. And I said, why not smile? He says, you want people to think you're some kind of a nut that enjoys this climate? I stayed there and I got in trouble. I should have been fired many times. Tom Skilling tells about the time that they built a weather station on the roof at WGN out on Addison. That was in '67 when I went over there. And one day I was out there checking, and the wind blew the door shut. And I couldn't get back in. And Tom says, you remember when you were locked out on the roof? Yeah, I was out there by myself, too. But anyway, Rick, it was a great time when I joined you in '96 at Fox. We get along pretty well.
Yeah, we worked together for about, what, 6 years, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember there were times when someone would come in from Weather Central and train, and it was usually you and I training together, and I don't think the trainer got more than 5 minutes of training in about an hour because we just joked and laughed around the entire time.
Talk about, you can always learn new things. We had a director named, what was his name? I mentioned his name earlier.
You mean floor director?
Yeah, whatever.
Z,
No,
was
not a
it?
floor director, but, you know, even after all the years I've been on the air, I got on and I gave too much of the wrong stuff, I guess. So the guy comes up to me and he says, do it like Rick DeMaio does it. You'd only been doing it a few years, and I've been doing it about 40. So I watched you and I changed my approach.
Well, you know,
Wonderful.
in regards to what you just say, I think when we all get into something for the first time and you kept looking for something that you wanted to become kind of like a name, you wanted something to represent yourself on the air, like you were going to say that thing all the time. But the more I watched you, I just said, you know what? Harry on the air is the same way as he is in person. Rick, just be yourself. And watching you made me feel more comfortable because I would watch other people, and when I met them in person, they were totally opposite from what they were on the air.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not how it should work. Whatever you are in person is how you should be in front of the camera, because you can always make mistakes look good when you're doing it the normal way of just being a regular person.
Well, you really can't be anybody but yourself anyway, as much as you try to be a show business character. But I owed to a girlfriend I had when I got out of the Army. I was 20 years old, and I liked this girl a whole lot, but I wasn't sure that she liked me. And I asked her one night, I said, how should I be? She said, just be yourself. And I always remember that, and so I never tried to be anybody else but myself.
Do you remember the day when they asked you to do that first tornado warning? What was that like?
Well, I told the boss, I said, I don't know if it's a written law, but we don't put tornado watches, we call them alerts in the old days.
Right.
We don't put them on the air, it's only for the Air Force.
Right, because that was Tinker Air Force.
Yeah, Tinker was doing it from 48 to 52. And I said, I think there's a rule that you're not supposed to even mention the word tornado. In fact, when they used to put it on the hourlies on the weather report, it was always written out, tornado. Remember, you had to write T-O-R-N-A-D-O. And I said to my boss, if I put this out on the air, you want me to take this watch alert that we got from Tinker Air Force Base, we bootlegged it out. We sent a reporter out there with a mobile phone, and he called it in. And the boss says, put that on the air. I said, I don't think we should do that. We could be arrested. The boss says, if they come to arrest you, let them arrest me, because I'm the one that told you to do it. You're only obeying my orders. He had been a Navy captain, so he was used to giving orders.
Right.
But when I put that out, we got an overwhelming positive response from the audience in central Oklahoma. And Reichendorfer got on his horse and came down from Washington. He was still the chief of the Weather Bureau. And he came down to Oklahoma City to find out what we renegades were doing down here.
You were in Tulsa, right?
Putting out these these things, they weren't supposed to do that. That
You
was
were
just-
in Tulsa at the time,
Yeah,
right?
and he told me, I can remember his words, he says, you're gonna be, or you are the first one to do this in the whole country. And he said, we'll let you do it as long as you take responsibility for anything that happens. Because the Weather Bureau is not going to be liable for any suits or anyone that gets hurt or whatever. So, if you're willing to take this responsibility, then we'll grudgingly, in a sense, give you permission to continue to use these tinker field warnings. Because the Weather Bureau wasn't issuing them.
Mhm.
They were just coming out of Tinker.
Right, because they were hit so many times before
That
by
was
previous storms.
Paul Bush and Miller were
Right.
the guys that thought this up.
Right, right.
And the way they used the analogs to go
Right.
through the old weather maps, they said, look, let's go through all this stuff and find out what kind of conditions prevailed when we had a tornado before. And if we see these conditions again, then
Mhm.
doesn't it make sense logically to predict that there'll be possible twisters?
And it was all hand analysis.
But I can remember that the program director said, look, Harry, when you go on the air, don't make too big a thing of it, but don't make too little a thing of it. He said, don't scare the people, so just do it straight. And that was quite a challenge.
Yeah.
So I got on there like Don Nuts and said, look out, there's a tornado coming! I threw a panic to people. Or if I said, there may be a tornado tonight. That's one of the challenges you have in broadcasting, is what level to give the message.
Mhm.
Make it just straight out. Let the people know that you're being sincere and you're not trying to overplay this.
Mhm.
Now, our dear colleague, friend John Coleman would say, this is the big one. I never wanted to go for any of that kind of stuff, because after a while, you destroy your credibility. And
Which-
credibility is something you try to maintain,
Mhm.
to build it, and there's no substitute for getting that integrity or that reputation. Thus endeth the speech.
Very good, very good.